AdvoKAYte, holding healthcare accountable. This podcast is my way of sharing what I've learned about the mistakes, the cover-ups, and the ways we can all protect ourselves. We're all in this together. Hi, and welcome to AdvoKAYte, holding healthcare accountable. I'm Kay Van Wey, and I'm so glad you're here. If you've heard of me, it might be because of my work on the doctor death cases. But what you might not know is that for over 40 years, I've been fighting for patients and families who've been let down by a healthcare system that's supposed to protect them. This podcast is my way of sharing what I've learned about the mistakes, the cover-ups, and the ways we can all better protect ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Kaylee Pear, who's going to guide us through the podcast and introduce us to what this is all about and why we're doing it.
I am so excited to be here with you. First of all, you're amazing. And I do think that this podcast is really important and what you're going to be talking about. So I can't wait to kind of unpack that. But I do think the main question, that the listeners or viewers are going to want to know is, you've been a lawyer for many years, but what made you want to be a lawyer? Where did that start?
Well, it started in high school, and it's kind of funny because I didn't have any lawyers in my family. My mother was a ballet teacher, and my dad was a small businessman in a small town in Oklahoma. But I started out in high school as a student council nerd and a varsity debater. And I was always the kind of person that I felt like a little guy and an outsider. And I always was about my fellow little guys and my fellow outsiders. And I always felt that I was longing for a sense of justice for other people. So, this just extended. I went to college on a leadership scholarship. I ran for the student council there and so on and so forth. And then when I got to law school, I didn't know a tort from a contract from an oil and gas lease. And I sat in my first year torts class and I was like, wow, this is it. And then my first job became, I worked for a medical malpractice lawyer in Oklahoma City. And I was like, this is absolutely what I want to do. If I can ever get there, if I can ever do it, that's what I want to do.
And didn't you, when you first started, I think when we were talking the other day, you wanted to be in the courtroom so bad that you went and knocked on doors?
Oh, yeah.
Did you do that?
Yes. So I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma. And so when I first moved back, I started as a prosecutor and I was in the courtroom all the time. And it was kind of funny because in a small town there, the part of the trial, the voir dire, you start out and you say, does anyone know me? Does anyone know my client? Does anyone know me? And it was really hard to pick a jury there because people would raise their hands and say, oh, your mother taught my daughter ballet, or, your dad sold my son a car, or my dad a car or something. So it was a very welcoming environment for me. But when I went out into private practice, I didn't have any clients at all. And so we had a criminal court appointment system in Comanche County. So I went around to these older lawyers that didn't want those cases. They already had an established practice. And I'd say, just give me your cases, I'll do them. And so that's how I initially built my practice. And I was fine with it. A felony jury trial paid $500 and a misdemeanor jury trial paid $350. So back then, this was in the, mid 80s. I was great with that. But I was literally in the courtroom all the time. And that's what I loved.
And you said, you worked for a medical malpractice firm when you first started, and you were like, I have to do this. What was it about that made you want to do medical malpractice instead of some other law?
Well, I probably would have loved to have been a doctor, but the math and sciences weren't my strong suit. So I guess this is the next best thing, maybe, because you get to learn medicine, study the medicine, understand the healthcare system. And then, the witnesses that you're cross-examining or presenting or whatever, they're medical experts. So in order to go toe-to-toe with them, you have to be an expert on the law, but you have to really dig deep into the medicine as well. So I just think I would have probably wanted to gouge my eyeballs out if I had sat drafting contracts all day for a living. There's never, no 2 days are ever the same for me.
Yeah, and I mean, having to dig deep into healthcare, and you can't just like do the surface. Like you had to really know what you were talking about. So you kind of had to be a doctor per se, you know?
Well, a witness, whether they're a doctor or any other kind of witness, they will try to pull your leg. And you have to be able to know, like, is this doctor trying to pull one over on me? You have to know enough to know when you're getting played.
And throughout the course of your career, because you've been doing this a very, very long time, has there been, a situation where, you never expected, like a case or something that stands out to you that was a turning point for you? Like, I've got to do more of this to make sure that these people are taken care of.
Well, interestingly, everyone thinks of the big tort reform in Texas that we had as being 2003. And that's when the voters voted to change the Texas Constitution to allow special protections for healthcare providers. But I was around for the first round of tort reform, which was when our governor was Bush. So that's how long it's been going on. But, most of the lawyers kind of that represented patients, they weathered the storm through round one. But in 2003, when we got the big bill and the big constitution change, the overwhelming majority of medical malpractice lawyers representing patients left to do other things. They're like, heck, I can't make a living doing that. I need to go become a business litigator or whatever.
Interesting.
So I just felt like I can't leave because somebody has got to continue to do this work. I mean, it's very important. Sometimes we're the only ones calling for accountability and holding them accountable. So I would say that was really, I don't know, say a turning point, but that's when I knew, like, you know, it's the Hotel California. I've checked in and I'm never checking out.
Not going anywhere.
That's right.
And that's a big hurdle for you because you have to learn a whole different, as they change everything, more to learn, more to be there for. Are there any other big hurdles throughout your career that stand out to you that, maybe helped shape this podcast now?
Well, it reminds me of something that you can't let other people get into your head, because at various times in my career, people have been in my ear saying, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. But I used to have this thing, I don't know what happened to it, but it was taped to my computer monitor, and it said, don't look at your feet, just dance. And that's kind of been one of my things. With the Dunge cases, for example, people were like, sure, everybody knows that Dunge is negligent. That's anybody can make that malpractice case, but you're never going to make the case against the hospitals. You're never going to do that. When I was trying to hold drug suppliers responsible for basically selling drugs to pain clinics, and then the pain clinics were doling out drugs to people that didn't need them. People were like, you're never going to hold the wholesaler responsible. You're never going to go up the food chain on that. So I guess maybe that's a problem I have with my personality, is people shouldn't tell me I
challenge accepted.
Right.
I'm kind of like that too, so I understand. I actually prefer if you tell me I can't do it, because
there you go.
Then there you go, right? But it's a lot of work. I mean, when I was talking to you the other day, with one case, how many hours are you putting into this? Like, how do you keep going? When you're up sun up to sundown, even past that,
right,
to protect people.
Well, it's a great question. How do you keep going? Because, I'm no spring chicken anymore. I've been at it a minute or two. And, my friends and family are beginning to say, like, why don't you take up golf? Or, why don't you play pickleball? And I do play a little pickleball, but, it's, I don't know the word for it exactly, because I don't want to say it's a calling. That's too strong. But it's my life's purpose. It's my life's work. It's my life's purpose. And, it reminded me when my kids were little, I I never talked to them a lot about what I did, but one time I made them come down because I was speaking to a big group of lawyers. And I made them come down because I thought they need to see what mom does. And my youngest son drew a little sketch of me as he was watching and probably not listening. But when I got home, he showed it to me, and it's little me with this giant briefcase. And I was like, what does that mean? Or, what are you trying to depict? And he said, that's you, because after we do homework, you read us stories, we go to bed. That's what you do because you bring your work home every night. And I was like, wow, I didn't know they knew that.
Wow, that's wow.
Yeah. Lots of burning the midnight oil at the dining room table with, medical records spread everywhere looking for that needle in the haystack. But
So, as we transition to the podcast, obviously you've done this for many years. You've got so many stories to tell and so many things to share with people to help. Why now?
well, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And I think when I turned 65, I realized I was like, oh, that's a real number. And I feel 35, but I realize that my chronological age is not 35. So, the runway starts getting a little shorter at a certain point. And it's like, if you're going to either stop talking about it or do it.
Yeah.
So, I just feel that there are things that I have seen and things that I know after all of these decades doing this work that other people need to know. And, ultimately, I'm trying to make my own little dent in the universe. I'm trying to do something that can help people. And that's the gist of it.
So, why don't you take a second to talk about what you want this podcast to be?
Well, first of all, I want the podcast to not be boring, and I don't think it will be.
Oh, I don't think so.
And I want people to listen to it because they want to learn and be educated. Part of the problem in trying to get people interested in patient safety is, we're inundated with so much information, and it's easy for people to say, oh, that's never going to happen to me. That's, N/A, not applicable to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it is applicable to everyone because we are all patients, and no one is exempt. No one is special. This was brought home to me when I had to have a little procedure. And, you're kind of like just naked bodies laying on gurneys, and it doesn't matter. Does this person have beautiful jewelry? Oh, they must have been really successful. Or did this person come in with a designer handbag? Is this person a Republican or a Democrat, a liberal or a conservative? Whatever, it doesn't matter. It is the great equalizer. We are all naked bodies laying on a gurney. And so it matters to everyone. The other primary reason that I'm doing this is that there is no unified patient safety advocacy organization. We don't have an FAA. We don't have a Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We don't have a patient safety czar. And the doctors, the hospitals, all of the healthcare providers have big, powerful, and wealthy organizations that lobby politicians. The patients don't have that. And we desperately need some reforms in our healthcare system. So, to be perfectly transparent about it, I'm trying to grow a movement where the patients can level the playing field with the rich and powerful and have our voices heard.
Yeah. And so, I was going to ask the next question of, who do you want to listen to this podcast? But sounds like it should be everybody.
It should be. And that includes people that don't agree with me. I might seem like a nice person, but not everyone views me that way. You may be surprised to know that there's a lot of people that can't stand me, and I'm okay with that. Because if everybody liked me, then I wouldn't be doing my job. You know, and I've developed really tough skin over the years. Like, so there's a lot of people that think I am mean, like a mean lady. And that's, I mean, it's okay. But I really hope that people will come on this show who disagree with me, and let's politely, let's take the gloves off and
I know.
let's get
I want to
after it.
see this. I want to see this Kay.
Yeah,
That's what I want to see the gloves off.
you probably will.
Well, with the podcast, as we move forward and more episodes come out, what can, people expect from it? Like, who are you going to be interviewing? What kind of guests are you going to have? What topics?
Well, so season 1 is going to be all about Dr. Death. Now, when people hear that, they may say, we already know that story. We've already heard it. It was a podcast, a documentary, a made-for-TV movie. It was an American Greed episode. It's been all over the papers. But there's only so deep that, television or whatever can go. We've got 5 seconds to devote to this, 15 seconds to devote to that. So we're going to break it down, and we're going to go deep dive on each of the reasons that we had a Dr. Death and why we still are at danger of having other Dr. Deaths. And the reason that Dr. Death is still important is because the system failures that gave us him, they existed for decades before Dunch probably was still in diapers, and those problems existed. And the number of reforms that have been made since Dr. Death, approximately 0. So, that's why we're going to start there.
Wow. I mean, that makes me, first of all, I'm kind of lost at this point, because you saying that there has been 0, that's shocking to me.
It's shocking to a lot of people.
I'm honestly speechless, because, I mean, how many years ago was that at this point?
It's been a decade ago.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the people, physicians, hospital administrators, prosecutors, we say we kept the band together. And we have been working since that time to try to get the system changed. And, we joke with each other. We're like, well, we've been an utter failure. We haven't been able to, it's just us,
Yeah.
And we can't compete with the big and the powerful. And we can't get the attention of the politicians. I think politicians, they poll on things, and they know that people care about certain things, and then that's what you hear in their stump speeches. And a lot of people vote on those issues. But people need to be voting on patient safety issues, because there's a lot of things that politics is about these days, but most of those things aren't going to kill you, right? This is really important.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the podcast. I cannot wait to see the different episodes that you're going to have, talking about Dr. Death and having everybody, I hope that you're going to take questions from people that are watching and listening. Right? Is that something you're going to do?
I really want this to be interactive, and we're going to have a way for people to contact us, to ask us what do they want to know, because, as they always say, the thing a lawyer loves to hear the most is the sound of their own voice. And so I don't want this to be me listening to the sound of my own voice. I want to hear from people, and I hope that they will engage.
Well, I already have a whole bunch of questions, so
Oh, good.
We'll be ready to go. So, well, I'm looking forward to the podcast, and I really hope that it really touches as many people as possible, because I do think this is important. We need to have education so that when we're at the hospital or we're at the doctor, that we can advocate before something happens.
It's not the patient's responsibility to have to be aware of the preventable medical mistakes that can harm them, but having the knowledge can empower a patient. The problem is, and I'm going to be kind of a Debbie Downer about some of these things, there are a lot of things that no matter how hard the patient tries or what all they do, the system is set up where there's no transparency. And so at least we'll know what the limits are.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining me on this first episode of AdvoKAYte, Holding Healthcare Accountable. I hope you found it helpful and inspiring. Remember, this fight isn't just mine, it's ours. Together we can demand better, safer care for ourselves and our loved ones. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for me to cover in an upcoming episode, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your thoughts and let's keep this conversation going. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay informed, and never stop advocating for what's right.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kaylee.